Welcome back to the All That You Lead podcast. We are here with Tim Walls from PASMAC. He is the president and general manager. Tim, thank you for being on the All That You Lead podcast.
My pleasure indeed, Mark. Welcome to PASMAC.
Thank you very much. We are very excited to have you here today and to dive deep into your leadership experience. We recognize that you just celebrated your 22nd year here at PASMAC. It's quite a big milestone.
Yes, it's it's hard to recognize that duration some days, but yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. So before we dive in, just a little bit of background here then. You and I, we met working on an engagement here at PASMAC together alongside our partners over at the Salad Bar Group.
Yes.
So Railtown, we are a sponsor of the All That You Lead podcast, teamed up with Pivot Point Marketing and Pair, design and advertising agency, and that's how we first met. How did you first connect with Angelia and Pivot Point here when we first started our engagement together?
Yeah, it's actually through another company that we're aware of in the electronics industry, and there was a recommendation relative to getting together with you guys and seeing what you could do to help us out with restructuring our presentation of the company in the digital marketing world. So website, promotional videos, just again, a very unique education that yourself and Angelia and the Pair team have provided us with, where quite literally you can teach an old dog new tricks.
We have had the great privilege of learning a lot about precision manufacturing through our work together here, and really impressive to see some of the things that PASMAC is doing. And we're going to touch base on those a little bit later here.
Sure.
In this interview. So first off, circling back to those 22 years here at PASMAC, how did your journey begin here, and how has it evolved over the years?
Well, my career in manufacturing preceded PASMAC with some time spent in thermoplastics, retail, sporting equipment production, tech side of things in the world of fuel cells, and a short time spent working in the market of subsea sonar. So quite a broad spectrum of, I'd say, stops in different companies with different attributes. Along the way, a lot of what I was involved with from an operations perspective was acquisition of machine components. And in a couple of the companies that I was running, the operations side, we had machining capabilities in our manufacturing internal processes. So I had some familiarity with it. I'm actually a tradesperson by education. I had other education that followed on with operations. So I migrated from shop floor to administrative side of things and procurement, then got more education for myself in operations management and started taking over in terms of the, let's just say, the more global attributes within some of these companies relative to the whole operational manufacturing side. And then along the way got a lot more exposure to the technical sales and marketing and different IT systems required to run all that sort of stuff.
So it sounds like quite a diverse experience that led you to where you are here today. What was that moment? So leadership, we're talking about leadership. There's it's challenging for, I think, a lot of people to pinpoint that point where maybe you're like, hey, maybe I'm stepping into something that is a leadership role or a leadership position. Also, we talk a lot about the different definitions of a leader. There's very formal role, it's the hierarchy, it's the structure. There's more of the modern view of leadership, which is about driving impact or having a voice in your community that leads people forward. So, kind of coming back to all that, do you think that diverse experience, how did that kind of stack up to bring you to the point where you're like, you know what, I am kind of stepping out of that role and into this next phase in your career?
Well, it wasn't a natural proclivity for me. I was introverted in my younger years, but it, I guess, was sort of a byproduct of having exposure to many different diverse situations, and sort of developing, some more overt social skills, along with recognizing in myself that I wasn't afraid of change, and definitely not risk averse, I guess, is the big thing. Because I would say with the majority of people, there is some constraints in terms of their abilities to sort of accept the risk element of business, that in order to grow, you have to be able to step outside of the box that you're currently living in. So a lot of what I learned in working with different engineers and people developing their companies was that you have to take those chances in order to grow and develop your business. And remaining stagnant is just not an option in virtually any business, particularly at the pace that things run today.
Makes a lot of sense. We did ask ahead of this interview, what are one of the challenges or roadblocks that you've kind of faced on this leadership journey? And you'd mentioned like fear of change, and specifically, kind of people's fear of change. It's and also, kind of building on that, kind of the revelation that personalities shape all our conversations, or all conversations, and that does really kind of tie back to managing business risk. So when it comes to fear of change, personalities, the people component to leadership, how does that all kind of fit together in your head here today?
Well, leadership is managing. So you're managing perceptions of individuals, and those individuals are powered by their personalities. And every personality, every individual, every character will look at a situation in a moderately different light to very extreme different perspective, that how they would deal with it to try to navigate for the best outcome. And a lot of people, of course, don't even want to do it. They just want to follow. But they still have strong opinions and perspectives based on their experiences and obviously their comfort level with a lot of things. So there's a lot of selling that happens. So if you gather the information together, and it's always, the cliche about surrounding yourself with very talented people is recognizing the balance. It's like any team sport. You have to have all the elements of the team makeup in order to be successful. Not everybody can be a great offensive player. You need a defensive element to it. You need the coaching that has to happen there. But often it really comes back to finding a like scenario that has played out for the organization that these individuals have been involved with, and saying, look, the scenario that we're dealing with today isn't that different than this situation that we dealt with a year ago. And here's the methodology that we used. What did we learn? How do we drive this towards success using those lessons and intuitive problem solving to come up with an outcome that delivers the goods. So it's again those personalities and giving them confidence in and helping them coalesce as a team to formulate a problem-solving, group that can drive towards that end game, which is often founded strictly in how do we take care of what the customer's looking for, and making sure that we're delivering, because our success is definitely founded within that success of our customer. That's how we get people coming back. The best customer is a repeat customer. How do we keep them happy? How are we successful in the past at achieving those types of things? Draw on your experience. And you give them confidence by bringing them back and saying, look at how successful you were as an individual and what you had to deliver, and collectively, and how successful we were in what we brought to the problem-solving equation.
Love the idea, the concept of the team dynamic to what underlies good leadership. Diving a little bit deeper into that focus on the customer, how have you kind of built that into the way that you work here at PASMAC, and kind of your leadership journey?
Well, it matters, but to borrow the cliche of internal customers, you have to make sure that everybody within the organization is sort of fulfilling their life objectives as well, both career and personal. Obviously, You know, there was a professor that I had in a sociology class many years ago who on a rainy Monday night introduced the concept of why do we work? And basically said, never forget, you work for your free time. But sometimes you have to draw back to the rudiments of that, is that all of us as individuals are essentially like our own company. We have to bring value to our employers or to our customers in order to drive our success moving forward. So it's critically important that everybody recognizes what the expectations are for them relative to their position within an organization. And we'll often say, look, we have great expectations at PASMAC for what we need from each person in order for them to fulfill their job obligation. But at the same time, they can expect the same level of commitment from us. So it's the symbiotic relationship between employer and employee. It's a union. It's really tough sometimes to break down the proverbial us versus them. It's, you know, an unfortunate element. Thing is that managers, we're them too. We're part of the us, we're part of the them. It's the unification of that and having people understand why we're driving in a certain direction to be successful. At PASMAC, what we sell is time. We sell time on our equipment, and we have to be very efficient and effective with that. We do not have a product. Our IP is our problem-solving skills, our technical problem-solving skills for working out how to deliver complex machined manufactured components on time, on budget to our customers. So that requires all of our technical acumen, all of our business acumen, all of our organizational skills to be at the peak of their performance capabilities in order to deliver on that.
So kind of touched on value there in that, and value kind of jumps out at me. So leadership and kind of the evolution of your career, the things that you do with your, like you mentioned, the example with your sociology professor, where, you know, why do you work? It's for your time when you're not there. How do those two worlds mesh for you? How do you kind of combine the personal side with, you know, Tim Walls, the president and general manager of PASMAC? Where do those two worlds meet, and is there separation? Do you have a clearly defined line? Or is a lot of what you do outside of work still kind of contributing to your role here? Of course, always. We're in your office right now, so yes, Tim always thinking about PASMAC. But how do you kind of manage those two realms, your personal life and your professional life?
Well, I'm probably not the preferred case study individual because I often overworked during my career. That's just a personal attribute of mine that I've had to work on in order to ensure that I'm managing my life reasonably as well. But part of coming to PASMAC was sort of, I'd known the owner of the company, Steve Scarlett, for a few years prior to joining the company, and his whole mindset around employee wellness and, you know, sort of taking care of yourself as an individual is actually how you do a better job of not only taking care of your personal life, but being valued to the organization. So we have a fitness program here and a personal trainer who's on contract, who's available for all of the staff, if they so choose, for a training session once a week. So we really drive the wellness mindset. We accommodate flexing of schedules. We're very much an organization that does a lot better with work in person as opposed to work in home, because
makes sense.
It's a much more sort of hands-on, very direct communication type of business, but we do flex things to make them work. I do think about the business, not constantly, but frequently during my off time. But for me personally, and everybody's different, that's a healthy way for me to manage what I need to stay on top of. And I recognize in the role that I have that I need to be available for people, our employees, our customers, ownership of the company, somewhat on demand, because I am often in a position where I need to help people with some decision making, and that's just part of the role. It's not for everybody, but it just seems to be something that I've gravitated towards in my career, and I'm comfortable with it.
So, hobbies, interests, they a great way to kind of find something that's distracting enough, or that keeps your attention, or that does keep you healthy and at your peak performance, so that you are driving business forward when you are in that business role. So tell us a little bit about some of your hobbies and interests there. Cycling, it is the season for it now.
Yeah.
Motorbikes, also a lot of fun.
It's anything with two wheels.
Anything
It's been something that's appealed to me since a very young age. So motorcycles and cycling. My work in the sport retail sector was actually running a bike manufacturing and bicycle component manufacturing operation for a number of years
No
ago. But it was kind of a dream job in a way, because it was core to what I was enthusiastic about in terms of, literally mountain biking and road biking were big interests, and still are, of mine. And then motorcycles, again, I've just been around them for a long, long time, and to me, it's the closest thing to flying without leaving the ground, and I really like that feeling. The other thing that's always been a foundational component was music. I had a 6.5-year period in my life where I made my living playing music, probably where I started to get a much better understanding of how to deal with people, and certainly understanding that you have to play to your audience. So when you're working with, no matter where you are, when you're interacting with people, you have to be open to what it is that they're seeking from you in that situation. And that taught me a lot more about how to interact with people, and also the creative side of things. Definitely was involved in the music industry for a number of years, even while I was working full time, writing and producing music for other people, and in music publishing. And it's just been a hobby that I very, very much enjoy. And I think that creative side is important to people in business, in terms of being willing to think outside the box and engaging the other side of the brain from the analytical side, and basically saying, okay, how can we solve this problem with all of the resources that we have available? And then another brilliant element of that is I really enjoy learning from other people. So whether it's a cycling thing that I've learned, from racing team members, elite cyclists that help me out just a tiny bit with my attempts to scale a mountain. It's important, and very much in business, benchmarking is it's basically taking advantage of something that's already learned and acquired from somebody else and applying it to how it can work for your organization. And I think it's a fabulous tool if you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time you encounter issues. You draw on that expertise or learned experiences from others and adapt it to what you need to for your success in your business.
Makes a lot of sense. So, putting some pieces together here, over the course of a lifetime here, you found these nuggets of wisdom. For example, applying something within a business that worked and now replicating that and doing it again. The idea of benchmarking and coming in with some preliminary data to say this is where we're at and this is where we can go. How do you kind of blend tried and true and legacy learnings with this desire to learn new things and how to progress change while still kind of relying on what's been proven in the past?
Well, at the end of the day, it's something that doesn't get mentioned a lot, but every business, and that's even including the concept of looking at ourselves as employees of an organization and saying, you need to be successful with your business. So how do I look at the global requirements of the business in terms of, managing or stewarding the business forward so it's successful for ownership, but also successful and sustainable for the employees, satisfying the customers, growing the customer base, diversifying. Well, that's all done by paying attention to things you've learned along the way. You have to be able to make a profit. That's how businesses are sustained. You need to have more money coming in than you have going out.
Or some really good investors for those software companies out there watching.
Yeah, and not to take anything away from that, but the old tried and true understanding how businesses need to be able to stand on their own and need to be able to provide a good or service to the consumer side of their product line that satisfies that business relationship and helps the next tier up in the deliverable actually be successful as well. So I've had the good fortune of having exposure to working in large corporate side of things, and obviously a lot of our customers are those larger corporate entities. So I'm comfortable, along with our VP here and our owner, relative to how we interface with those companies, and we've brought a lot of our senior technical people along to have those kinds of understandings and comfort around dealing with those things, so that we can confidently deliver on what we're going to do for them. So the culmination of years, it gives you, if you're willing to absorb it, a certain amount of intuition around instincts that allow you to make decisions in a timely manner. Being able to recognize an opportunity when it's in front of you, looking to bring value to the situation. What's a value add? What's non-value add to the situation? We've been dealing with things recently where the interface or relationship with the customers changed a little bit, and we're advancing our position with them and seeing what we can add beyond just the machine component deliverable to them, so other value-added services that help them, that take more off of the burden of their procurement activities away and help consolidate it, with us assuring that they're going to get a more value-added component or assembly that will be on time, delivered, working to put into their final assembly.
I think this is an appropriate time then to segue from kind of that intuition and learnings and recognizing opportunity and prioritizing that customer experience and how those relationships form and manifest to what's on everyone's mind these days, and that is generative AI. So generative AI is changing the landscape. In the context of leadership and just general business practices, there's a lot going on in the world, and there's going to be a lot changing, or it's already changed and being brought about by AI. So maybe we'll start with first kind of some of the business opportunity that you're maybe seeing for PASMAC in terms of the latest and greatest technology and AI. And then we'll maybe dive into more the conversations around whether or not can AI be a CEO? Can it make those decisions? Can you teach AI intuition and learnings and experience that's going to yield positive business outcomes in a way that's really going to continue to drive profit and revenue and move the world forward?
Well, to take the the latter part of your supposition first, I probably don't know enough personally to comment on that. I would assume somewhat that based on what I read, that yes, eventually there'll be a lot more capability relative to decision making that can be rendered by AI. Right now, on the technological front, for us, there is definitely, I mean, we're just done an installation of a robotic system in our company that has a component of AI embedded in it that helps it with its, let's just say, sensing capability. And it's interesting. We've still got a long way to go in terms of understanding the breadth of its intuitiveness at this moment. But in other technologies, there are some major breakthrough things that we have to consider moving forward, and I think a lot of shops will have to consider in the areas of programming for CNC machining. There are AI machine learning developments going on that help with the front end of taking solid models and breaking them down and generating code. And you know, if you're talking about significant programming requirement that would currently take an individual 40 hours or 80 hours to compile, and this is capable of taking care of 40, 50, 70% of that load, you're all of a sudden talking about some serious throughput. And if it is developing its, let's just say, awareness of what your preferences are relative to how you tackle technical elements of producing parts, then I suppose we're headed towards it being able to manage even more and more of that for us. So looking at those things, definitely the scheduling side of it, the interfaces between ERP systems and data acquisition from the shop floor, because we're actively involved in that, you know, real-time data management. There's a number of fronts. I mean, even in the marketing side.
Even in the marketing side.
We've talked about it, what's onward and upward and coming these days. There are things that they just can't be ignored. So, I mean, Mark has helped us a lot with understanding where we were a little prehistoric in the past relative to the application of our marketing and how we get our brand and presence out there. So it's been very much a great relationship in that regard. So even though that's not necessarily AI, it's just the concept of being aware of where technology is going or where it is right now and how it can actually help and assist an organization versus just being entrenched in the old ways of doing things. Generally speaking, in business, if you're not willing to at least take a look at that, then I don't think you're being a leader. You're basically living on borrowed time relative to your current methodologies, which at the pace with which technology is progressing these days, I think is going to leave a lot of companies in an unfortunate spot. In our industry, it used to be a lot of tradespeople would take their knowledge, their working knowledge and skill, and start their own shops and become part of the fabric of the machining component supply base. There aren't very many people doing that these days because the barriers to entry are significant. It's a very expensive business to run. The technology is extremely expensive if you're going to have state-of-the-art equipment. If you're going to apply state-of-the-art, let's just say, software, AI, you know, new capabilities on that side of the equation, you have to have the right people to help shepherd that along as well. So if you're not paying attention to what's available and you're not at least considering what your options are, you know, you may get left in the dust. Part of it as well is that in the world of skilled trades, there's a diminishing availability of young minds who are wanting to get into that. And actually what's emerging more are the young minds that understand the concepts of machine learning, AI, and how to apply that to automation. So it's really part of what's emerging in our industry, is that that is going to be very likely a huge contributor to the path forward. You still need to know how to cut metal and remove metal effectively and efficiently, but the tools need to be better on the front end of it so that you can actually reduce the mean time between receiving an RFQ and a set of drawings to produce something and then actually delivering a product.
So, touched on some really great points in there. That idea of whether it's AI or another opportunity, another business opportunity, just kind of remaining open to it and looking and seeking out those opportunities, actioning them as appropriate, building in some fundamental either leadership approaches or technology, just to kind of keep tabs on what's going on. How do you kind of stay in the loop in terms of the latest and greatest in the manufacturing space and beyond?
Well, there's a lot of publications that come through electronically for us. We as a team tend to scan that, and we'll share those interesting articles or information tidbits that surface. We have a very much unique opportunity amongst some of our peers where we tend to collaborate. I mean, one of the things that we see as an organization is that our industry, because it's becoming more difficult for people to just step into this type of manufacturing, to be collaborative, to share more, to provide that cross-pollination of information and share in the capabilities. Not every shop is configured to handle. Some shops handle very small parts, some rather large parts, and to be able to collaboratively work through that type of thing. So technology tends to sort of come out of that. We have a very close relationship with our machine tool supplier, primary machine tool supplier, a lot of our software providers. So it's keeping an ear to the ground relative to what they're releasing, what they see as emerging technologies, what they see might be a good fit for the types of products that we're running, and just, again, sort of maintaining that leadership element that say, okay, let's be creative about what we're doing here. Let's use our instincts to evaluate things rapidly, and then let's see what this new cutter can do in this machine with this product to see if we can improve the repeatability of the cut time and performance time on this part. What can we do to reduce setup times? All of those types of things that are value add. Looking for waste. I mean, we have an engineering team here that's a manufacturing engineering team, and their job is to look at automation opportunities, but also to look at where we are wasting time and eliminate that from what we do on a day-to-day basis, which is obviously an opportunity to enhance efficiency. I mean, the other way that we are collectively as an organization leaders is that we engage with our customers in a very collaborative way, and we actually do participate in the design for manufacturers. So in proper DFMEA, there's a lot of companies that want to use the fancy acronyms and talk about being involved in that. But my question is that what you really do? Do you actually really bring that value to your customer? It's important for us to do what we say we're going to do. Very important. And so it's not just being a leader for your people internally, it's about being a leader with your customer base. We like to not be the one, the supplier or the part of their supply chain that they're on the phone with every week or sending emails to going, where's my stuff? We want to be the ones that they don't have to call. That's important.
I think that's a nice little wrap up there, talking about individual leadership, connecting to organization, being a leader. Really kind of like where that landed and where that went here. So I think then we're going to get close to the end here. So I do want to give you the opportunity to kind of wrap up any closing thoughts that you have. But before then, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper and take us a little bit of a different direction here just for one quick moment.
Absolutely.
So leaders, stress, it often comes into play. There's a lot on the go, a lot on our mind. How do you kind of manage or mitigate stress beyond music and two-wheeled activities there?
Hair loss.
Yeah.
I used to have very, very long hair a long, long time ago. But
we'll find a picture for the podcast here. We're going to source that.
I hope not. No, it can be stressful, but not all stress is bad. The pressure to perform is important. I played a lot of team sports when I was younger, played hockey and lacrosse, things like that, but I got more into individual sports because I like to compete with myself. I like to push a little further. Now, I'm not in my younger years anymore, but I still compete against myself, and that's both in terms of perhaps something like cycling, but it's also in terms of, hey, how can we do better as an organization? How can we do a better job of mentoring internally? Are we basically positioning our people to optimize what they're bringing to the equation? Are they happy in their roles? Are they feeling fulfilled? Are they leading us with sort of ground-breaking ideas and new thoughts about how we can break the paradigm around certain constraints that we're facing? So, it's really perhaps understanding that the world can be a very, very stressful place, and then taking a role to go, hey, relax, it's just another problem, we'll figure it out.
Fantastic. That's I think a really great philosophy on navigating work and life and stress and.
Well, the workplace can often be just like family. We have challenges in our families sometimes. We have challenges growing up when in our younger years, and that the adage that as you get older, you now have all the wisdom that you should have had when you were in your teenage and formative years. That's the way it goes. It's the natural evolution of every individual, right? But you still have to enjoy life, and you still have to have one of the terms that I've shared with our good friend Bill from Para Group is that I prescribe to a philosophy that you must remain functionally immature in life, which means that you're responsible enough to take care of all of your obligations in life and be a good person, but at the same time that unbridled joy and laughter that you experienced when you were younger still needs to be present. You still need to be able to laugh at things. You still need to be able, sometimes when things get explosively serious, it's just to pull the fuse and inject a little bit of humor and just say, look, there's no point in us getting all crazy about this. Let's just pull the fuse on the bomb and just have a laugh about it. Step back, everybody go home, come back in the morning, we'll reset and we'll figure this out.
I think that's an excellent wrapping up point here in terms of guidance for the next generation of leaders and aspirational leaders out there. And even those currently in what they would consider leadership roles.
Well, one additional primary thing that I would suggest for anybody who wants to step up is don't be afraid to own your decisions. You may feel like a lot of people, if you've gone down the wrong path, this is purely math. It's the law of averages. You need to be right more than you're wrong in order to be successful, but you don't have to be right all the time. And you've got to develop the proverbial thick skin to be able to say, you know what, I'm right 90% of the time, I'm wrong, or I've made decisions that didn't punish the organization or myself individually. 8 to 10% of the time, they weren't winners, but they weren't losers. You can't be afraid to be wrong.
I think baked into your answer there was reflection and kind of going back to kind of the learnings and how that all kind of comes together to drive leadership.
Well, you can't keep relearning the same thing.
No,
You either absorbed it or you didn't. So, the
Well said.
the bottom line is, take the lessons from life, the wins and the hard knocks, and that's what formulates your instincts relative to here's an issue. How would you lead your team to resolve it? And probably and it was an inspired moment many years ago. I was sitting around what we used to call morning prayers, which was basically bringing together of all the departments on the operational side to discuss what were the hot buttons for the day. And there was always, well, I've done my part, this person didn't do theirs. So there's the blame game that goes around the table. So I had one of those kerfuffles one morning, and in an inspired moment, I put my coffee cup down and said, who's responsible for all of this? And they all looked at me, and I said, yeah, it's me. So I'll take responsibility for everything that's gone wrong right here, right now. So now that that's off the table, how are we going to solve this, and this? So again, own it. It's not a bad thing. And you get comfortable with that after a while, and it doesn't really matter what other people think. If you're a good person, if your intentions are honest and your ethics are good, and you're driving towards looking out for all the constituents, all the people that are involved in the day-to-day business and your personal life, there's nothing wrong with just being you.
That's fantastic. Tim, I think we're going to end there. I think that does not get any better than that.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for your time today, and really appreciated having you here. If anyone has any questions or they'd like to follow up with you, would you be open to that?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Well, we will link to your LinkedIn profile. Do reach out to Tim and connect with him. A wealth of knowledge, as we've seen here today. And thank you again.
My pleasure, Mark.